Puka did not appear as along with the rest of the Rams starters, and so
He's
the Rams lost accordingly, but they're playing next week.
hanging out with D Wade out on the field.
Yeah.
Pregame. And we welcome you to Week 18's recap of Wilk and Wiss, your bi-weekly update on Utah athletes in the National Football League and how they connect to the state of Utah and you, the fan, as well. I want to talk about fans, the melting pot that is the state. Cole, regular season's over, man. This went by
It
quick. This
is.
was a fast season. Like, it just kind of happened.
It
We
was so good though. Like some of the storylines, when I look back at what we were doing 5 months ago, the NFL landscape has changed. It's been an exciting year.
insane, insane year for sure on that front. Well, let's go ahead and jump right on into Saturday's action. The AFC North making it really easy on Hard Knocks to get as much footage as possible, playing each other
Hmm.
over the course of Saturday. It starts with Baltimore locking up the division crown, a 35-10 win over Cleveland. Kyle Van Noy, three tackles, a sack, a tackle for loss, and a quarterback hit. Mohamed Diabate had five tackles. Van Noy got a nice bonus.
Yeah, that was a nice payout for the one sack that he got.
In the words of Frank Shirley from Christmas Vacation, bonus? How did he get a bonus? That was the theme of this Sunday. Besides a few playoff scenarios left that were meant to unfold,
Hmm.
was about getting those bonuses. So shout out to KVN for getting a bonus and 12 and a half sacks in 18 games. That's with a broken eye socket through part of the season for part of the season. Like,
Yeah.
give KVN some love.
Especially when, I mean, people said that he was washed and out of this at the beginning of last year, and then he came on at the end of last year. Then they let go of Jadeveon Clowney, and all of a sudden, who does Baltimore really have in this pass rush? And they're in a time of transition. They lose a ton of their defensive coaching, and KVN stays as this like constant force rushing the passer on a team that is a Super Bowl favorite, like is in that top three of the AFC that's dangerous. This game in general, though, like a team that wanted to win versus a team that very much did not want to win. Bailey Zappi gets his name added to the bottom of that Tim Couch jersey, wearing the Cleveland number 2, by the way. Um, yeah, we this could have been an intentional walk of a game. Like both teams just meet at midfield to start off and say, "Hey, you want to win? You want to lose? Let's save our bodies the trouble." And Zay Flowers comes out on the wrong end of it all
Yeah.
because in this game that neither team wanted to be there for, he gets an injury and he's probably not playing for the whole Super Bowl run if that's what they do.
Yeah, it's for sure not looking good this week. What I was reading for Zay Flowers, but yeah, it's not good all the way around on that
Hmm.
front.
The other half of the AFC North, these two teams did think they had something to play for. So Cincinnati comes out on top 19-17 against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. J.T. Felly had a tackle. Ryan Rehkow, 3 punts for 146 yards. One was downed inside the 20. It was a long of 57. And on that long punt, the Gunners and the rest of his coverage team did him a favor, forced a fumble of Calvin Austin, and Ryan Rehkow's big field flipping punt turned into instant red zone for the Cincinnati Bengals. And then for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the losing effort, you had Jalen Warren getting 6 carries for 21 yards and Miles Killebrew having a tackle. Steelers lose and go down to the 6th seed in the AFC with a date with their AFC North rivals, the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, crazy. This could have been flipped almost. I think Baltimore couldn't have fallen. Actually, no, that's not true because Baltimore could not have fallen further than five, regardless of how the rest of the week turned out.
Right.
But
Yeah, a
yeah,
couple
kind of
weeks
interesting.
ago, they everything was still in
Yeah,
flux, but then Baltimore gets the win against Pittsburgh, and then I mean, these are two teams that are playing in those funky Christmas solo games, and anyway, everything has just gone wrong for the Steelers in the past month, and you end up with a 10-7 record and likely a first round exit, and this is exactly where we were just last year with the motley crew of Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph and company and Mitch Trubisky. And for all the hope that Russell Wilson kind of gave during one point in the season, kind of hitting the same result.
let's get to Sunday's action. Overtime between Carolina and Atlanta. Atlanta thought they were still in it by the coin flip
They
and
had
of
to play like
overtime,
it.
and even then still lose. Carolina. goes out on top 44-38 in overtime. Bryce Young's best game of his pro career, without question. Tyler Algier, 9 carries, 52 yards for the Falcons. Caden Ellis had 3 tackles. Clark Phillips had 3 tackles, a tackle for loss, and 2 pass breakups. And I think Atlanta should be happy with what they got with Michael Penix at the end of the day, but there's still a lot of holes on this team, still a lot of answers that need or questions that need to be answered this offseason. It's kind of been the story for Atlanta the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Mostly on the defense. It's interesting, like the guys that we talk about the most, because Algier is mostly just a spellback behind Bijan, who's looking awesome. I think our two Utah connections on this team might be the two best pieces that they have just on defense in general going forward. You went out, you got Matthew Judon, right? But that's been an up and down experience. He didn't single handedly just give this team a pass rush when they didn't have any of it. And yeah, Carolina's looking better, but 44 points in a game that you had to win, and their defense just didn't show up, and they haven't all season. And it's not a defense that deserves to be in the playoffs, similar to the Cincinnati Bengals, who, when they won on Saturday, they thought they still had a chance, but then that door was closed rather abruptly in the afternoon slate. But all these morning slate games were pretty close.
Yeah.
So, division matchups, that's the theme of the entire day. Washington against Dallas, 23-19. Washington gets the win. Bobby Wagner gets 8 tackles, 2 for loss, and got in the way of a pass.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels didn't play a ton in this game. It was Marcus Mariota that led them to the win over Trey Lance, which maybe that's a thing in a Madden universe somewhere that Trey Lance and Marcus Mariota are starters for respective teams, but
Yeah.
on a regular basis. But this was big for Washington. They get the 6th seed. They get to avoid Philadelphia in the first round, which was big for them. Because yeah, bad way to end your season if you're Green Bay, uh, which is the game we happen to be talking about next. Chicago doesn't get their last second field goal block this time, and with a little trickery in special teams, Chicago was able to win this game 24-22. Jalen Johnson had 5 tackles and a pass breakup. Jordan Love got injured, 7 of
Yeah.
12, 69 yards. Is going to be good to go this weekend. They've already cleared him. That all looks good.
LaFleur said he could have come back in that game, and yet you also have a post-game interview with Jordan Love saying, I didn't really have feeling in my fingers by
Yeah.
after.
Yeah. It's kind of
Okay.
weird. Kind of weird. Chris Brooks got a lot of run, though. 8 carries, 59 yards. I mean, I get Green Bay trying to look forward to being ready for the postseason, but Christian Watson tears his ACL,
Mm-hmm.
which fortunately they're very deep at wide receiver. I don't think that's a detrimental thing, but
But
you're going
everyone has
against,
kind of their role, right?
right.
Like no
Each
one, they're
receiver's a
very
little
deep,
different.
but no one else on that roster does the Christian Watson-y
Right.
stuff. So
Well, and on top of that, you're going against Philly now. You
yeah.
could have gotten Tampa Bay, and instead you get Philadelphia, which is a massive drop off between those two teams. So don't get me wrong,
And I
happy
think
Tampa got in, but
yeah.
hmm,
Depending on if Tampa Bay lost and Atlanta wins, and then I think if the Rams had won, which they were not trying to, like things could have shuffled a little. Like, there was a lot of
mhm,
flexibility in the NFC playoff picture to start, so you could have. There was no jockeying to get the right team,
right.
but Green Bay got the wrongest one of the
Yes,
bunch.
without question. Without question.
Houston gets a win against Tennessee. The two of you and your father made picks for the Tennessee Titans. Or no, it was me and Scott Wilk that picked Tennessee, and you picked Houston. By the way, regular season standings official 170 and 102 are both of our records we tied
Really?
on the season. I went 10-6, you went
Wow.
9-7 last week. It was a one game disparity. Also, just to like look back and say we're learning something doing this podcast, we both improved on last year's records. At the end
Really?
of the regular season last year, we were in like the 150s to 160s range. We both hit 170 correct picks
Nice.
in the 2024 season. Anyway, this Houston Tennessee game, anything could have freaking happened, and Houston just gets the win. They were going to get the 4 seed anyway, and Dalton Schultz had 3 receptions and 29 yards.
Other AFC South matchup, Indianapolis beats Jacksonville 26-23 in overtime. Julian Blackmon, 5 tackles, a pass breakup, and an interception. Matt Gay goes 4 of 5 on field goals for a long of 49, 2 for 2 on extra points. Devin Lloyd, 6 tackles, a sack, 2 TFLs, and 1 quarterback hit in the last game the Jaguars were coached by Doug Peterson, as he was let go this morning to no surprise whatsoever.
But not the last game for the head coach and GM combo, by the way, of
Which is
Indianapolis
why,
that has not done a terrible lot to deserve keeping this going, but
and I'm not surprised keeping Steichen. I'm surprised Jacksonville kept their GM though.
it's Trent Baalke being,
Letting a coach go and not a GM sometimes is bizarre.
yeah, especially when
There,
Doug Peterson comes in with the cachet that he had, and you kind of did trust his coaching more than the GMing. And there have
hmm
been some questionable decisions in their drafting and the guys that they've picked up. And yeah, that'll be an interesting job to see who wants it to work with Trent Baalke and his very
yeah.
specific way of building a team. New England gets this is the one where I picked up a win in the pick'em between you and your dad. New England gets the win against Buffalo. They win themselves out of the first pick in the draft down to 4, and lose the ability to trade. I guess they were probably still going to get Travis Hunter or Tetaroa or one of the top
hmm
tackles, whatever it is. But New England gets the win today, or yesterday, 23-16. Sione Takitaki had a tackle, and then Cole Bishop on the Buffalo side, 3 tackles and a pass breakup.
Yeah. And how about Joe Milton?
How about
Like,
Joel Milton?
is he going to get a shot somewhere? Like as a back, you know what I'm saying? Like, did
Yeah.
they play him to kind of be like, we want to keep Drake May healthy since there's nothing really here to play for, but also, do we think we might have something here to where we can trade this guy and maybe get a little capital for a desperate team? Do they hold on to him into early next year, kind of try to pull a Tyler Huntley like situation where they
In the
have to
past
send it
days of
to an
the
extra
NFL,
quarterback?
when we didn't realize quarterback was as important as it is, and every piece of like mental effort goes into figuring out if you get the quarterback right, big quarterback offseason decisions have been made on much less than this that we saw out of Joe Milton. The fact that Matt Flynn got a big contract before they drafted Russell
hmm
Wilson in his one game in the last game of the season audition for Green Bay that one year that they went 15-1. The Rob Johnson thing when he went to Buffalo and got paid a lot. Like that seems like such a far gone day of the NFL where we hopefully GMs know what they're doing a little bit more than they used to. But man, if this was like 2004 and Milton went out and did that, he'd be the starting quarterback for some team next year.
And yeah, I don't think he starts week one by any means, but is
And
there
he
a
shouldn't.
team?
No, I
No,
mean,
no,
there
no,
were
no,
still
no.
so many questions about him coming into the draft, but like teams would fall in. Like, this is a story
Yes.
that has happened before. And by the way, Matt Flynn and Rob Johnson are like catastrophic examples of how it did not work and you shouldn't do this, but teams still were doing it.
Yep. Yep. Uh,
Philadelphia won against the Giants, so the Giants lost. That's much more important, but the funky win against the Colts last week still got them to the 3rd pick in the draft. By the way, cleaning it up because we've talked about the top 5 of the draft order so far. Tennessee comes out with the 1, Cleveland gets the 2. They both kind of want quarterbacks, and there's probably 2 decent quarterbacks, and the New York Giants have the 3rd, and they might not have a dance partner. New England falls to 4, and then Jacksonville at 5 is your top 5 in the draft. Anyway, we have no Utah connections in the stat sheet for Philadelphia and New York, and like we said, Philadelphia 2 seed, and they draw the Packers.
Talking about backup quarterbacks, Tanner McKee does not have a Utah connection, but he is LDS. He is a returned missionary, played at
There you go.
Stanford. Kind of was better than Kenny Pickett was for Philadelphia these last 2 weeks. Did he earn
Yes.
himself the long-term backup spot to Jalen Hurts? Because again, I don't think he's going to be a starter anywhere. You look at who he played
Not right
against
now,
and
yeah.
everything, but kind of like what I saw out of Tanner
But
McKee.
yeah, I mean, Pickett certainly shouldn't be looked at as a starter either. We've seen plenty of him not being good. Let's look a little bit harder at Tanner McKee.
hmm
That's good.
Tampa Bay clinches their playoff spot. The Saints were up early. It was 16-3 at one point in this
Yeah,
game, 16-6.
at
Tampa comes
halftime.
back and wins
Mhm.
27-19. Jamal Williams gets 8 carries for 15 yards. Dallin Holker, the tight end out of Lehigh High School, with 2 catches and 11 yards. And then Nephi Sewell was all over the place for the Saints. 8 tackles, a sack, 2 TFLs, and a QB hit.
Yeah, those linebackers, Nephi included for the Saints, did better than they did the last time they played the Bucks, but still coming down the stretch, Bucky Irving's got something going on. And then we saw a little bit of Sean Tucker again.
hmm
These Buccaneers and Liam Cohen and Baker Mayfield being the resurgence. You had the pick in the preseason, and you
One of
were
my
right. The
best.
Buccaneers win this division, and it looks It looks like, I mean, it's not convincing, right? It's not, if they went on a Super Bowl run, we would be surprised, right? They're not
Sure.
there, but it's fun watching them play. It's a lot more fun watching this Buccaneers team than the Falcons, who had the chance to
Should be
usurp
fun to
them.
watch. Yeah.
The least interesting game of the past 5 years. The Denver Broncos get the win over the Kansas City Chiefs. Devaughn Vele had a really cool touchdown
He
grab
did.
where it bounced off of just about everyone on the field. That was one of his four receptions, 50 yards, and that touchdown. Cody Barton had three tackles, and Jonah Ellis had two. And the Broncos are your seventh seed in the
Yeah.
AFC.
The downfall of Carson Wentz really needs to be studied. Because man,
He got hurt
yeah, I mean,
a couple
and
too
maybe
many times,
and
and you
maybe
just can't
that's really
recover.
all it is, but like he was so good. Like you're thinking future guy of the, like
Yeah.
potential Hall of Fame career with the way the trajectory was going before that knee injury, and then like he's so bad. He's so
Yeah.
bad. It's just bizarre. I don't know. So
The Broncos defense is also good. And of
sure,
all these first round wildcard matchups, them against Buffalo is not a foregone conclusion, right?
sure,
Like Buffalo's defense is still the weak point of this team. Like they don't have the Josh Allen on that side. And they've patched things together, but I think a really well orchestrated Sean Payton attack to get at them where they are weak, right? And then this Broncos defense will keep you in a game until the very
sure.
end. And then we've seen Bonix doesn't try to do a lot, but he has one play a game in him, and if you're close at the end, that one play might come up at the right time.
Yeah, AFC just playoffs as a whole are going to be fascinating.
Heck yeah.
How about the Chargers, by the way? From fifth overall to the five seed in the AFC, they win 34-20. Alohi Gilman back from injury just in time for the playoffs. Did have three tackles for the Chargers. Harbaugh deserves a lot of love here, and he did what a lot of us thought he would do. I was one of the people who thought it would take a full year
Yeah.
for them to get in. I didn't have them as a playoff team. I don't want to play the Chargers either. The fact that they're playing Houston right off the bat, not a good matchup for the Texans, given depth and injuries and all that. Still, I think could be a great game, but no, man, the Chargers are not a team I do not want to play.
This might be my best preseason take. I had the Chargers in the
You
playoffs
did.
where trying to zig where everyone else was zagging, and the Harbaugh effect got him there because the bones were there, right? And the defense still, personnel wise, is in shambles, but Harbaugh comes with a good defensive infrastructure with, the guys that he's worked with at Michigan and guys that have worked with the other Harbaugh that got a lot of coaching attention. Anyway, yeah, Chargers get themselves into the playoffs. The Seahawks had a chance a couple weeks ago, but it ends up too little too late with a win over the Rams, 30-25. They were already out and the Rams were already in at the start of this game, and the Rams played like it. Jimmy Garoppolo was their quarterback. Ronnie Rivers was their leading rusher. Jordan Whittington was their leading receiver with no Puka on the field. That's why we're not no Utah connections that
Yeah.
reported stats in this game because Puka did not appear as along with the rest of the Rams starters, and so
H-
the Rams lost accordingly. But they're playing next week.
Hanging out with D Wade out on the field,
Yeah,
pregame. Jets in what might be Aaron Rodgers' last game ever, if not for sure with the Jets.
yeah.
Rex Ryan said this morning, ain't no going to be no Aaron Rodgers country club if somehow. Dude, okay, before we get to this, we've got time.
Okay,
Rex Ryan going back to the Jets would be the most hilarious
yeah.
thing to happen to the Jets in the year of our Lord 2025. And I guess we're 6 days into the new year, but I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you saw my tweets today when Rex said that and said he was like a shoe in. He had a lead. Like he wouldn't be surprised if they just give it to him. In typical Rex Ryan way of expressing
Yeah.
himself. It's the Ron Swanson laughing outside of the video store gif, to which someone replied, "Oh, he's already got a foot in the door, it looks like." And I just replied with the girl looking at the camera as the playground is engulfed, the house is engulfed in flames in the backyard or whatever it
Also
is.
foot in the door, considering Rex Ryan on Hard Knocks talking about Rex and his feet. Uh, I, you know, I could go for Rex. The 09 2010 Jets are still the last Jets teams to be in the playoffs. So
I mean,
go ahead.
uh, it's
I
just
can't wait.
amazing.
I can't wait.
It's
That's
just
those Jets
amazing.
teams.
No, it's just phenomenal. Phenomenal. Not
Scoop
even
Huntley, did we get the stat line here?
I haven't even said the final score yet.
Huntley started this game for the Dolphins
Yeah,
in a
Jets
game they had to
win.
win to keep any, like Denver wasn't losing
Right,
simultaneously as this game was happening, so it didn't matter. But
right.
in a game the Dolphins had to win.
Jets win 32-20. Huntley goes 25 of 41 for 227, a touchdown and two picks. Aaron Rodgers was really good. I mean, I guess if this really is the last hurrah, he went out with a bang, looking like Aaron Rodgers at times. I don't know, man.
And
I'm
then
glad.
sometimes he's like handing it off to Adams, who's throwing it back to him, who's throwing it back to Adams, who's fumbling it. So
Yeah,
not all the time.
yeah.
Hey, your Cardinals got to win.
Say the line, Bart.
Faithful then? Who knows? 47 to 24. The 49ers fall, where both teams are eliminated, but it's a rivalry game and it's fun to win. Kairos Tonga got a tackle on the board, and then Fred Warner, 8 tackles and a tackle for loss. Hit the ice bath, young man, because hopefully the 49ers will be back in contention for you next year. The fact that you played all the way through this year
With a broken
is
ankle. The
the
fact that he was
biggest.
even playing on Sunday, I was like, as much as I hate the Niners, I'll always love Fred.
Hmm.
Um, and it stings that him and Puka are on division rivals, having as much success as they've had, but still happy for those guys. Um, Also, isn't it funny that Kyler Murray plays lights out when there's nothing on the line? I like Kyler. I really do. I want him to do well. I wanted them to draft him. There's just something about when the stakes are high with Mr. Murray because they were not high at all on
Hmm.
Sunday, and he played great. Looked like a
Yeah.
Pro Bowl, every year Pro Bowler. McBride and Marvin were looking great. Still some, and look, I told you if Arizona would get 6 to 7 wins, and they got 8. So again, exceeded my expectations of what
Hmm.
I thought in the preseason. But you were 6-4 at one point in first place in the division, and you only win two of your last 7 games. Just tough, but good things to build off of. I'm
Yeah.
still a big Jonathan Gannon guy. Our this is the best front office I think the Cardinals have had in my fandom. They've drafted really well, so I'm excited to see how this continues to roll.
You are fantasy wise invested in the other short, squirrely quarterback in the NFL. And so, former number one overall picks, right? Undersized, at times in their careers look to have been totally out of it, and then have other times looked really good at the and in a similar offensive scheme, right? Not scheme, but like
Right,
situation
right.
where the teams invested pretty heavily in your offense this year, totally ignored your defense, so you knew you were going to have to outscore. Right now, whose career trajectory do you want, Kyler Murray or Bryce Young?
Boy, that is a question. That is a question that should be asked on every single podcast out there right now. I'm still going to go with Kyler Murray because he's still young and he's at least gotten you to the
Hmm.
playoffs before, right? And
And he's
granted,
shown like MVP potential
sure,
before,
he had an 8-0
but
start a few years ago. I mean, yeah, Bryce Young looked great yesterday, though. I mean, I think Bryce is always going to be a better passer. I think Kyler gives you that extra threat, and that's where I'd take him. The extra threat of his because his speed is just top end compared to Bryce Young,
yes.
and that's enough for me to put him just above Bryce, just
And they've both
above.
got really good play callers, and yet they both work better when they're doing the thing that the play caller didn't necessarily draw
Right.
up in the first place, and then they're doing whatever comes after. It's interesting. Like it's very
Yeah.
easy to compare just two guys that are sub 6 foot, right?
Sure.
And they don't play similarly on the field, but they have similar strengths, and they're just in on similar teams right now in the team trajectory where they have young coaches that have shown us enough and that we believe in, but also we're not necessarily already saying these are top 10 coaches either. Like we both love
No,
Jonathan Gannon, and the way that Canales was able to overcome the bad vibes trip of this year means that he's here to stay too, right? These are not two coaches that are on the hot seat next
no.
year, but if they don't take a leap and fix the other side of the ball And we're looking at another like 6-11 through 9-8 kind of season out of the Panthers or the Cardinals next year.
That's when you start
Then
having
what
those
is really pushing you
conversations.
forward?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, love what Arizona's management's doing. They've made smart, savvy, cheap free agent hires to
Mm-hmm.
guys
Paris
that
Tonga,
that
your
play
man
really
included.
hard. Mac Wilson was great this year at linebacker for Arizona. Kaiser White. They've done cheap, smart moves, um, not overplaying their hands at all.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that goes down the road. But it was a good year.
Which
It was a good year as a
the
Cardinals fan, honestly.
Texans, with their young quarterback, and they thought they had a hot young coach, head coach, and offensive coordinator, and then they overplayed their hand with the big
Hmm.
Diggs and Daniil Hunter, and things did not exactly go the Texans' way this season. So talk about slow playing though, and building the right way. The Detroit Lions, after all three of us picked the Minnesota Vikings, I shouted, "This means the Lions are going to win, right?" And boy, did they. 31-9 over the Vikings with the one seed at stake. Vikings get the five, Lions get the bye. Tim Patrick had 2 catches for 15 yards. And why have we ever doubted the Lions ever?
Yeah, man. Like Alex Anzalone coming back 7 weeks after a forearm fracture. The scar on his arm is pretty freaking
Yeah.
cool. Like, bro, go get that tatted. Like, just go get that permanently inked on your arm because the fact that he played within 7 weeks of having that procedure is insane. Um, and yeah, I'm just really, really happy for Dan Campbell. Happy for that city. We'll be happier if they. I think that's who I'm rooting for to win the whole thing. Now that we're
Oh,
here, like
yes.
if there's no question. Get Dan Campbell, and if the Detroit Lions win a Super Bowl, give Dan Campbell a lifetime contract as the head coach of the Detroit Lions. What that city's been through, whatever the case may be, pay the man whatever he wants for as long as he wants it. Because I don't think any city in America, maybe outside of Buffalo, would appreciate a Super Bowl more than the Detroit Lions would this year.
In Buffalo, man, that'd be the Super Bowl
Can you
matchup for the
imagine?
ages.
And that's kind of what I'm pulling for. That's kind of what I want to see. That's what I wanted to see a year ago. Wouldn't mind seeing Baltimore get into this. I wouldn't mind seeing Van Noy win another one. Don't have to worry about a Kansas City San Francisco matchup this year like I did a year ago. So,
Could be
uh,
KC Philadelphia. It's been a year since we saw that.
yeah. I'd be happy to see Philly back. I'd be happy to see Saquon get one. Um,
That's true.
that man deserves something like that in his career after playing for the Giants for 5 seasons.
Yeah. And
Washington,
playing for
Ohio.
Penn State before that, which you can have all the regular season success that he didn't have in New York, but no postseason. Best still the my favorite game that I've watched where my team didn't win it and it didn't like sour the whole thing was that Rose Bowl where
Mm,
Saquon and Trace McSorley versus Sam Darnold and Juju, and
that
that
was a
was a fun
phenomenal
game.
bowl game. It's why
And
it's why bowl games should still happen. There's a call for some bowl, and I get now the Rose Bowl is part of the playoff, and if you're good enough to make the Rose Bowl, you're playing in a playoff game. But
right.
still,
Do you want to dip your toes into like the discourse of a committee would have picked the Bengals to get into the playoffs if we had that? And I spend all of my energy saying that college football actually needs to act more like the NFL, and now you have these hot take people that for some reason think that the most perfect playoff system in the world, the NFL, needs to learn a lesson from college that we've all spent all this time complaining about.
yeah, that's ridiculous.
We're
No,
on the same page, right?
the NFL is king for a reason.
Yeah.
And look, I'm a bigger BYU fan than I am a Cardinals fan, but I am a
Mhm.
much bigger NFL fan than I am a college football fan. Very, very excited to see how these playoffs turn out. The 14
Commissioner
teams that are
Saban
in,
could change all that.
the 14 teams that are in deserve to be in. Zero ifs, ands, or buts.
Yep.
The Broncos did what they needed to do to get
Oh yeah.
in.
I
Zero
mean,
questions asked. It's
honestly,
ridiculous.
if a committee's picking these things, you kick the Steelers out and put the Bengals in for the way that the last month, like, because the argument in college is always, well, the team they are in September isn't always what they are
Right,
now, so you got to like weigh the recency more. Steelers are coming into the playoffs with an 0-4 December,
right, right. Well, brother, it's been a fun regular season. How did my dad do, by the way?
9-7,
Okay, same as me.
respectable.
Okay. So Connor Henline, you are the winner of the $25 Amazon gift card. Congratulations to Connor. He will be our guest this coming week as well.
Yes.
We'll talk Browns draft pick. Since they're at that number 2 spot, do they go get Shador or Cam Ward, who's ever available, or not?
Travis Hunter,
Yeah, do they get unique with Travis, where he's such a unique prospect? Do you just go all in on an Ashton Genty and move on from at the number 2 spot? Because that's what I had on my mock draft. That's how good I think Ashton Genty
there
is,
you
but
go.
that's just me. So,
You want to pick an
Cole,
MVP? Mine's Devaughn
oh,
Vele.
duh.
Like it was a weird skinny week, and
Yeah.
Vele had one of the best highlights of the week. So
No, he was going to be mine as well. And
okay.
what a great story. Undrafted, rookie, wasn't that great at Utah, honestly. Like I remember thinking he's on an NFL preseason.
Yeah.
He got invited to like a camp and then he made the roster and then he thrived with Bo Nix. He was better than Troy Franklin was, who they
Yes.
spent a third or fourth round pick on. So I
Well,
mean,
I think Franklin was actually a sixth round pick.
was he
He was
really?
much later than
He
he was mocked
fell.
at
Yeah,
early.
he
Like he was
fell.
supposed to be a
At
day
one
two.
point, I had him as a late first during the
Yeah.
college regular season last year. I
Yeah.
remember having him go to like Buffalo or Baltimore at the end of the first round last year. Anyway, will be interesting to see. First guy I've got going off the board this year, Jalen Royals from Utah State receiver. First local guy I've got going off. So we'll
Yeah.
continue to keep an eye on that. So, Coma, man, great to be with you as always. Great
That's the
regular
regular
season.
season.
Now
It's
we get to
done.
talk. We'll start sending out requests to fill out the Wilkin Wissy Awards, which will be really actually intriguing this year given how many injuries we had. I think there were
Yeah.
some guys we kind of penciled in, oh, they're going to repeat in this category, and I
There
don't
are no
know.
runaways. It's going to
No.
be very interesting to tally those ballots.
Yeah. Appreciate you, my man.
Yeah.
Once again, this has been Wilkin Wiss, your bi-weekly update into Utah athletes in the National Football League and you, the fan. Please subscribe here on our YouTube channel, and we'll catch up with you on Thursday.